coming here today to listen to us once again talk about the vital importance of infrastructure for our communities, for our economic development, for social and cultural development. As many of you know, I have been talking about this issue for months, if not years now, and we see firsthand on our streets both potholes and broken water mains, and the issue that infrastructure has in our ability to function as a city and as a community, and how important it is for all of us. And this year we have an incredibly important opportunity to push our legislature as they debate the budget to put funding in for infrastructure of all sorts across the state. This year there has been, due to the hard work of government attorneys, there have been millions, billions of dollars in settlement funds. These are one-time revenues, and we've been arguing for a long time that they should go towards one-time issues. Infrastructure is an issue that benefits the entire community, that is desperately needed, and given the low interest rates that are going on in the marketplace now, we could get double the bang for that. So as our assembly members and our senators and the governor is debating the budget as we speak, we are gathered today to urge them to put money in for infrastructure so that we can improve this incredibly important asset that serves all of the people in our community. So with that, I would like to invite Carly Hill, the Safety Director from Union Concrete Construction Corporation of Buffalo, as well to speak to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all for being here. We have been, over the last several months, really dedicating our push for increased spending when it comes to safety and the development of our infrastructure systems. The web that is woven together that we use day in and day out, whether you're a trucking company shipping goods across the state, whether you're one of the many men and women, blue-collar workers who've dedicated their careers to maintaining the skill set necessary to improving the systems that we depend on every day together to do what it is that we need to do. My family's business, we employ over 100 people. Unfortunately, we can't bring new people into our company to work for us because of the lack of commitment from our government for infrastructure spending. We find ourselves having to almost buy jobs that are out there just in order to maintain the people out there who are doing the work every day, so that we don't have what you're already seeing happen across the state, the fleet of skilled labor moving across state lines where there are increased budgets, increased programs for their DOT and their capital spending. We see this happening every season. The younger people who we depend on to replace our workforce as we age through, they can't stay here. The jobs aren't significant enough. We've been going to rallies. We've been letting the legislature know. I had hundreds of people get on buses to join us, to let them know that their livelihoods, their jobs depend on a commitment from our government for infrastructure spending. For every dollar that our government puts into infrastructure spending, almost $2 returned to the economy in services and goods. 62% of the jobs that are created through infrastructure spending and strong capital programs for the roadways that we own as a state, 62% of those jobs aren't even the blue-collar workers, the laborers, the operators, the truck drivers. It's all the supplemental industries that get a boost to their economy when we spend money on roads and bridges. The decrease in cost of maintaining school buses as they hit rotten joints and bridges as they cross getting kids to and fro to school every single day. It's a real safety issue, and it's something that I can't express stronger. And we have people here to speak on behalf of this, and I'd like to introduce one of our first speakers, Bill Shannon from the business manager for the laborers, and he can talk a little bit more just about how important this is to our workforce and how essential it is that we dedicate a committed capital program for highway and infrastructure spending. Bill?
Thank you, Carly. Mayor. Good afternoon, good morning rather. Echoing what the mayor and Carly have said, the whole matter of infrastructure is all intertwined with the economy. We in the Laborers International Union have been lobbying for years to have the funding for infrastructure increased, not only on the state level, but on the federal level as well. And I don't know what it is going to take to get some action, but we here in New York have a very fortunate event sitting in front of us with $5 billion in funds recovered from bank matters that New York State has put in front of us to distribute throughout the state. We believe that infrastructure is important to the whole economic picture and the development of the state, and we would like to see not only the governor's office, but our state legislature also put a significant amount of that money as well as budget money into improving the roads, bridges, infrastructure, water plants, etc. Certainly, as a member of the construction union, jobs are very important to us, and you will hear people who criticize the fact that we would like to see money go to infrastructure say, well, those are only temporary jobs that are going to be generated, let's use that money elsewhere. Well, the very nature of our business is temporary. Every day that our hardworking men and women go to work on the job, they are one day closer to putting themselves out of work. However, that is the nature of construction, and certainly all of the public out there wants to see the roads and bridges completed quickly, any new building, water treatment plant, etc. They want it done quickly. So we're putting ourselves out of work. But to look at it differently, if there was enough repair and enough construction being done, these jobs wouldn't be temporary, they would be enough to keep our people working year-round. So we would like to urge our legislature, as well as the governor, to consider taking care of what needs to be taken care of here in New York State and pay the attention that needs to be paid to our infrastructure. Thank you, and with that, I would like to introduce Fred Swayze from the United Brotherhood of Carpenters.
Mayor, it's good to be here today to talk on something that's very important to the state and to the region, especially here in upstate New York and central New York. It's vital that to have our rebuilding of our infrastructure, the rebuilding of New York State will be vital for us to move forward in the 21st century, both economically and as society. For far too long, I believe some things have been overlooked by lawmakers, and especially in our region, to provide money and funds to rebuild this area so we can sustain an economic growth base. From a standpoint of jobs, it will be a shot in the arm to the construction industry, which I represent along with my colleagues here today. It will also be a shot in the arm to the region as economically as a whole, where new businesses would maybe want to come into our region with good roads and bridges and a good infrastructure of water and sewer, gas lines, and know that their workers that will be coming here and the workers that they hire from our region will be safe and be able to get to work on time, be able to get to work safe. Their school kids can get to work safe, or get to school safely, excuse me, and they can get their goods and services delivered in proper time frame and without having to worry about that. So it's vital to the state and to this region that we have this in the budget, that we can move forward and grow economically. And with that being said, I will turn it over back to the mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I would open it up for any questions that the media has.
Do you support a particular plan, like the $800 million plan?
I can say that I don't have a particular plan that I support other than money for infrastructure. You know, the infrastructure systems that we have in central New York are really the jewel of our region, and for far too long they have been ignored. And we now have an incredible opportunity to rebuild, to maintain, and to update this infrastructure so that we can truly have the building blocks of the next century of economic development. Without that investment, without that updating, without that maintaining, we will not be able to have an economy that functions in the 21st century.
Does the water main break over on Hiawatha Boulevard, while it's out of the city limits, does that kind of highlight the importance across upstate New York?
Oh, it sure does. That water main break is actually the Onondaga County Water Authority water main break. But every time you drive in the city of Syracuse and you see orange cones, excuse me, those are city water main breaks. We've had, I think, 119 year to date. So we have had unprecedented numbers of water main breaks. They have interrupted people's abilities to drive on our streets, to get into businesses, to park, to have water to their residences and water to their businesses. That's exactly what we're talking about. And by the way, that's what the people of our community believe a government, it's a fundamental mission of government, is to provide these kind of services. So what you're seeing, I've been talking about the Syracuse City water mains, obviously, as you all know, but across the state, we have seen water main breaks from Buffalo, where they had a water main break that actually the water came out in such a fast and furious way, it encircled cars and froze over whole cars. We have seen Kingston, on the other side of the state, have incredible water main breaks where they say they're not sure how they're going to fix it and what they're going to do. So from Buffalo to Kingston, from the Monroe County Water Authority to Plattsburgh, anywhere around this state, they have infrastructure that is deteriorating generally and specifically with water and sewer.
There's been this kind of back and forth between the governor's office in Albany and then on a city and local municipality level. Why does the state need to be helping? Why can't it only just be on the local level?
Well, look, the whole history of how we have funded infrastructure as a country in general and in New York State in particular has been that the federal government pays part of it, the state pays part of it, and then the local government actually implements it. And I say that to say that's how the Erie Canal was built, right behind us. But let's talk about the modern day, the Tappan Zee Bridge, which is a hugely important piece of infrastructure for this entire state, if not the country. The state is not asking the taxpayers of Westchester to pay for the Tappan Zee Bridge. They're asking all of the taxpayers of the state because that's how we fund infrastructure. It makes sense for all of the goods and services, for all of our marketplaces to be that way. Let me give you another example. There are a limited number of medical schools in New York State that are training medical students. One of them happens to be located in the city of Syracuse. It is important to the health, both literally the physical health and the economic health of New York State, that we train doctors to serve our people. We're doing it here in Syracuse, and we need to have people be able to drive on those roads and have water to those hospitals in order for our economy here to function, but our economy in the state to function as well as the country. That's why states, federal governments have to invest in infrastructure. That's why they have always done it, and that's why they should continue to do it. Did you want to say something?
You know, I'd like to add to this. The mayor brings up a great point. The taxpayers expect that their bridges and their roads are going to be maintained by the tax dollars they pay into every single year. When I get out on a bridge deck and we're busting up rotten concrete that's rotten all the way through on the bridge deck because of salt sitting on it all winter long. We do not live in Florida. Our roads and bridges do not take the beating, and you cannot underfund our program. Every single year it's decaying, and I don't smell bacon. When we're out there paving the roads, when we're out there fixing the bridges, there's nothing like that out there. This is a basic necessity and right that every person in the communities across the state demand that their legislature make a commitment to. This is not special. This is not unique. There isn't a big ribbon to cut every single time we complete a job, and you don't even think about it when you cross those bridges, that the men and women out there fixing them are actually doing the job that you need them to do, that you're paying with your tax dollars every single year. That's what I want to point out. This isn't about glory. This isn't about the special vote. My people can't make it out. They're not looking for a pat on the back when they get their job done. They take pride in it every single year, and they want a commitment from our government to ensure that the pride they take in the work they do on behalf of our committees, of our communities, and basically taking all that tax money that everybody's paying every year and putting it where the government promises it will be. that they can depend on, that there'll be no doubt when you take your children to school that a piece of crumbling concrete isn't going to break through your windshield like just happened downstate. This is no joke. There are injuries happening, there are bridges crumbling, and this is a serious issue that we can't keep kicking down the road. The can gets bigger every year, and it costs us more to take care of things that we put off today, takes more tomorrow in the future. Does not look at what we did and thank us for it. They look at what we didn't do and wonder where we were when we knew the problems existed.
I just wanted to ask, are you hopeful, Mayor, that there will be more funding in the upcoming state budget? And I know you just recently ordered in Washington speaking to John Katko. Would any help you think will be coming on the federal level?
I can tell you that the state delegation from Syracuse has told me that they will fight for infrastructure. And not too long ago, a number of those members stood at this very podium and said that they would join that fight. I can tell you that Senator DeFrancisco has been a stalwart, and we are talking regularly about this issue, and he's fully on board. Now, he's one member of a large body, but the other members have shared with me that they understand its vital importance. In terms of Washington, Congressman Katko said he clearly understands the issue. He's living it just like we are because he works here. But Washington, unfortunately, has become a model of dysfunction. And so it's not just water systems that aren't being funded, but we're seeing the Highway Trust Fund run out of money. That is a significant issue for roads and bridges and for our own for what happens with Route 81 and the successor. So these are not abstractions to the people of the city of Syracuse or Onondaga County or New York State. This is real.
So y'all come back here from last February, what's different this time around? You think you're trying to get momentum going?
No, what's different is right now there's in rooms in Albany, they're sitting at tables with pencils and trying to figure this stuff out. And so it is important that the people of our community recognize that right now these decisions are being made, that state elected officials have promised to advocate for money for infrastructure, that the people of our community are seeing what is happening with our deteriorating infrastructure across the city, if not across the state. Now is the opportunity to hold these people accountable for the commitments that they've made.
But there does seem to be a development between those that say, well, development is going to allow you to pay for infrastructure in the future because it's good for business, and to do taxes, and you want to come back to the state for it. Is that?
You know, Ellen, I think that completely ignores the history of how infrastructure has been funded and how it works. And again, what I think is particularly interesting about that, earlier I cited the Tappan Zee Bridge. No, Westchester County is one of the most wealthy, economically successful counties in the United States. Nobody's asking the taxpayers of Westchester to pay for the Tappan Zee Bridge. Long Island has huge water and sewer problems as well. Nobody is asking the taxpayers of Nassau County, also one of the richest counties in the United States, to pay for water and sewer updates by themselves. It's a red herring meant to distract us from how we have always funded infrastructure and how we will fund infrastructure going forward.
So Rebuild New York will be focused more on upstate, you think, than distributed process?
I can't speak for Rebuild New York. Could you repeat the question?
You're looking for money, would it be more focused on upstate, Rebuild New York? I mean, the mayor just said that a lot of downstate stuff is paid for.
Sure. So the question, that brings up the term parity, which is something where there's a balance between what's invested in downstate is balanced in what's invested in upstate. And that is something that we monitor and make sure that all of our representatives within legislature understand the real needs of their exact communities and understand that we have to have a balance. So parity, yes, there needs to be a balance between what is spent downstate compared to what is invested for upstate. And that is part of what Rebuild New York now is focused on, is realigning this conversation, like Mayor Miner points out. Infrastructure isn't a special thing. It's not the new hospital. It's not the new entertainment complex. It's the way that people get to and from those places. And it's what we pay in our taxes, and we're promised our government is going to follow through on when they develop their capital programs for the things we own. We own our bridges and our roads. It's just like your home. If your sidewalk is starting to crumble, you're going to repair it because every time you come in and out with your groceries, you're going to trip over that step. It's the same thing with roads and bridges. It's what we own, and we have to budget appropriately so that we can take care of it. Does anybody here think there's less cars on the road today than there were 15 years ago? Raise your hand. I don't see a single, nope, not a single hand goes up, because all we're doing is increasing the demands on these systems, but we're not balancing it. There's been nothing but cuts. Every single year, that's what's proposed, is a further cut from our big old pot of money that's meant to support our communities and make sure that what people put forth in their tax dollars is reflected in how the government then invests in the programs that maintain what we collectively own. Roads, bridges, water lines, culverts, all of these systems that we quietly depend on every day. We drive back and forth. We don't think about it a lot until something bad happens. Like in Minnesota in 2007, I begged the governor to get a hold of the lieutenant governor from 2007 and asked them, in hindsight, if you could have invested in that bridge that collapsed and prevented those lives from being lost, would you have? Would you have taken that surplus? Would you have invested it where it needed to go?
Anybody else?
Mayor, can you talk a little bit, obviously we're talking about long-term fixes right now. Can you talk a little bit about what the city's efforts for short-term, specifically, we've got thousands of fans coming this weekend, tourists that you want to make a good impression on. Can you talk a little bit about the city's efforts for that?
Sure, well, we have an active cleanup effort. We're hoping that Mother Nature helps us and helps us melt some of the snow, and that will also show some of the leftovers, shall we say, from the winter. So we're actively doing that. And look, in terms of this topic, not too long ago we had over a dozen families that didn't have water because of frozen water lines. Everybody now has water. You're going to see our water crew continue to work on that. We're very proud of our water crew. They're doing extraordinary work in making sure that everyone has water within at least 24 hours, and most times it happens much more quickly than that. Anybody else?
Are these enough money right now to address, let's say, potholes because of the melting snow, we're experiencing more and more of them?
Look, what I would say to you is that any money that we get, we will use. But we are now getting to a place where something like a pothole is cosmetic, actually. And that we're really worried about both the deck of the road and then water mains underneath it. So we could patch that pothole and use CHIPS money to repair that road, and look at a brand new road, and then 24 hours later have a water main burst underneath it, and all that money is wasted. And so part of what we are asking, and I've been talking to the legislature about, is putting it in a pool where into a pool where we can talk about what we need to balance it out, so that if Syracuse's water and Kingston's water systems really need addressing, but Ogdensburg's roads are their priority, that we have some flexibility to do that. But you name the piece of infrastructure, you define it. We in the city of Syracuse and in New York State have problems with it. Our infrastructure needs to be repaired, it needs to be maintained, it needs to be updated, and that's what we have the opportunity this year to do.
Just want to clarify specifically on the pothole. So are you kind of in limbo, just waiting until you see what does or doesn't come from the state budget?
No, we're fixing the potholes. What I said was potholes are really kind of superficial. We're talking more about structural changes and fixing it. But as you all know, we patch potholes, we patch thousands of them. But we want to fix the road, and then we want to fix the infrastructure under the road so that it doesn't explode and then put that work that we did or those thousands of dollars spent just wasted. All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good day.